Let's take a look at some information charts on Solana for BraveNewCoin. So Solana is a proof of stake chain, new kid on the block, received a significant amount of attention and hype over the past couple months thanks to a significant rise in price. I'd say that for me personally, some of the hype and attention has died off based on what I can see on crypto Twitter and other places. The layer 1 season has waned slightly. Doesn't mean Solana is going anywhere, but there are probably better trades out there. So when you're looking at a proof of stake chain, you need to figure out who are the validators, are they decentralized, are they geographically distributed, are they of differing interests, because you don't want the chain captured by a small group of individuals. So we have an 82 billion market cap, 76% of this is being staked, total circulating supply 505 million. So a lot of staking going on here, probably a lot of AMM stuff happening on Serum as well. We'll take a look at that. And the staking rewards less than you'd get lending USDC or USDT, any stablecoin, on any DeFi application. So unless you're a community member in Sol and you're convinced this thing is going to go higher, or you are just a trader and convinced this is going to go higher, you're not going to sit in a less than 1% reward when, after inflation, when you're exposing yourself to volatility and you'd rather just hold USDC or USDT and let that accrue value through interest, which is why Curve has the amount of TVL it has currently. It's just too attractive for a lot of people who just want easy, passive, no worries investment. Is there regulatory risk and tax surface risk with Curve or smart contracts? Sure, but you don't have to worry about getting inflated to death, basically, on your rewards. So although they look attractive, I hope people look at the adjusted reward and think, yeah, inflation is this, reward is this is what I'm actually getting. And there are also fees associated with that based on which validator you're using. If we look at the validators here, they look fairly decentralized to me. I would like to know, if I was intimately connected with this network, I would definitely like to know who the validators were. There's probably pros and cons to that, but if you're a top validator, everybody should know who you are. I think that's just better off, even if it's some anonymous name, because we don't know if these are exchanges. I mean, we could figure it out probably, but some venture capital in here, some exchanges. Here's Kraken. So kind of a mixed bag, which is good. That's what you want to see in your validators, just completely random people basically making up the chain. You want to make sure the validators have full nodes and are keeping things up to date. On that front, I don't know that information. I don't know the size of a full node for Solana. Solana went down a few weeks ago at this point for, I think, about a day, which was certainly an issue for any chain, especially at sort of like the peak or coming off the peak of its popularity at the time. Not something unrecoverable, but clearly didn't help the momentum with price. I don't understand. I see a lot of this non-circulating versus circulating. I don't know enough about Solana. I should really look into that, but half of the circulating is basically, or half of the supply is basically not circulating, which is good. It's extremely bullish for price in the near term, because if there's a supply shortage when people are buying, obviously price increases much more rapidly. Going through some Solana TVL. It is at an all-time high-ish, kind of a double top here, but still looks fine despite price pulling back. Usually you'll see TVLs skyrocket, attention skyrocket when price is going up. Solana summer, layer 1 season, whatever, all that stuff, all that narrative certainly helps TVL because it just brings so much money so quickly into this stuff that already has a decent incentive because of appreciating price. And you have Ren going multi-chain as well. The more DeFi things that are able to go multi-chain, the better for things like Solana, because then they can compete with ETH and other proof of stake coins trying to offer the same thing. If the fees are cheaper, people are just going to switch to whatever chain lets them do what they want to do the fastest and the cheapest. And Radium is an exchange along with Serum, both DEXs, I guess. This is Radium's AMM pools liquidity, looks just like MetaMask, and ETH stuff looks just like any AMM DEX. They have a decent amount of volume on these pairs. So no groundbreaking stuff here, but they do offer what the competitors offer. And again, if it's better, faster, cheaper, stronger, people are going to use whatever they want to use. There's also NFTs on Solana, and one just sold I think this is 2 million USD on October 1st. Now, do I personally understand this stuff? No, but that's going to get headlines and buzz and attention and that sort of thing. If you look at headlines and buzz in a quantified form for the Google Trends of Solana, it has cooled off quite a bit since the highs in early September. This matches price usually, and that's certainly the case here. And following my own personal observations about the Solana hype, that's certainly died down on Google Trends as well. Things I can't really look at is transactions per day or NVT or MVRV, stuff like that for Solana. I just don't have that information, wasn't able to find access to it. So if you have that information or have access to it, let me know in the comments below. Let's take a look at some technicals. If you look at the half-year MA in the green here, we can't look at any higher time frames because there isn't enough data to take a year's average or 2 years average. Stuff that is I'm more comfortable with anyway, as far as TA is concerned. But this has fit fairly nicely. You can't deny it, right? Bottom, bottom, top, top, top. So currently the top would be around 300. As it takes time to get there, this will increase slowly over time, the averages. The question, as we're at the middle of the two bands, is do we have the momentum for 300? Do we have the momentum for 70? I don't think this is a market where this goes to 70. I also don't think it's a market where, for Solana specifically, that it's just going to shoot to 300. Looking at some of the other trend metrics, they're kind of mild. They're still bullish. This isn't bearish by any means. I'd rather see this bouncing on the midline, but 300 is the top. It'll probably keep going up. Otherwise, you're waiting for 60 to 80 to buy again. This is the 5200 EMA, monthly pivots, VPVR, and RSI here. RSI was painting a pretty decent bear div here at the top in case you weren't sure. If you're looking at this and weren't sure, you can just say, yeah, there's a bear div. It's significantly far away from the 200-day moving average. Probably going to slow down a little bit. There was a bear div on the last high as well. VPVR showing support around 140, 130. 50 EMA is also there. The yearly pivot is also there. So it's a pretty big level between 120 and 140. You don't want to make lower lows in a bull market. That's just what it comes down to. This did Adam and Eve and had a mini bounce. But so far, everything else is kind of outperforming Solana, which is perfectly fine considering Solana went from 25 to 200 in a month's time. It only makes sense that people are rotating into things that haven't moved yet. So this isn't bearish at all. It just doesn't look as bullish as some of the other stuff. On the 4 hour, it still looks fine as well. It bounced on the 200 a bunch. It's above VPVR resistance. But again, you don't want anything below 120. If we're below 120, it's probably because the entire market is selling off. It's hard to be bearish on anything when BTC and ETH are cranking at 50K plus and 3,400 plus. Things will do not as well as that. Things will go sideways, but they're not going to just sell off randomly, So I think you're fine holding this. It's just not a good trade though. The opportunity risk is huge. At least this week, that may change next week. Looking at the cloud, still bullish, still above the cloud. Bounced on the Kijun a couple times. For me, I'd much rather see this TK cross recross challenge this resistance support level a little bit at 120, just to make sure, because you may get an instance where you get stuff like this. This was a multi-month bottom, but it's much easier of a convincing trade for me to trade a Kuma breakout than to buy a Kijun bounce when I missed the whole thing, right? Or if you missed the whole thing. That's still a fine trade at 120 plus as a buy. It's just the momentum isn't there anymore. The momentum is always the Kuma breakout. So at this point, I'd be waiting for some high time frame chart pattern or something, a ascending triangle potentially. I don't know. It doesn't look like anything specific at the moment. Definitely a wait and see there. And even on the Alligator fractal stuff, Alligator is 3 MAs, and then the fractals are high, low, high, low, high, low. You get a print here. And in a bull market, you want to be above the Alligator and adding on any breach of the fractals to the upside. So my guess is we'll get a fractal print at 180 and we'll still be above the Alligator. So therefore you'd be adding or opening along at that level. You can see how messy this gets and has gotten. But ultimately, if this has momentum, it's very obvious where your stop loss is. As this is going up, here's your long entry, here's your stop loss. Here's your long entry, here's your stop loss. Then you hold, Here's your long entry, here's your long entry. I'm just drawing a horizontal line here, and then here's your stop loss. So you're not actually entering till we breach these fractals. This goes, here's your stop loss. Here would have been your next entry if it went higher. Did not. Actually ended up hitting which stop loss? It hit one of these stop losses in here, depending on how you want to trade this. If you want to trade this as a stop loss when the alligator crosses over itself, or when you get stopped out on the fractals. But you would have been holding from 30 to 140, which is a fine trade if you weren't convinced that this thing was going to pull back more. So I'd be watching for any momentum above 180 there. SOL BTC looks just about as neutral bullish as SOL USD. The Kumo breakout happened mid-August, and now you're just kind of waiting at this level. 003 is a pretty big level. So is 001. Volume there, VPVR there, 200-day EMA is there. So just a bunch of neutral bullish stuff, and the ETH chart looks exactly the same. Kind of weird, you don't see that too often, but these charts look identical to me. So if it's going to have strength in the future against BTC and ETH, you'll see it on either chart. You'll see it on the USD chart. Right now, it's just momentumless, sideways, not bearish. Just I think there are better trades out there in other things. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH and BTC fund, as well as the DeFi portfolio I trade for Techman Capital and Enzyme.finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can see everything, including AUM, performance, allocation. See all the trades I make in the trades tab down below. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.